down to the last of these treetops. We had 16 inches of snow since the last video. I survived the aftermath of the hard water canoeing exercise to get out to the woodpile. And need to finish sawing. I'm going to use some saws that I like to use for camping. I used one of these, or a smaller version of one of these, for my canoeing trip to the Boundary Waters in October, early October. And I am going to finish sawing these logs down in smaller chunks, as you see here. I'm going to stack back there a few more. Then I'll use some of my bushcrafting axes. I have several I like. First, I'm going to use this saw, that saw, classic most, what do you call that? There's a name for that kind of a saw. But I like it. This is the first one I ever bought. I've got some I've had, one I've had for 30 years. I made out of red oak. It serves very well. And then I used a smaller version of this one, next size down in the Boundary Waters in October. Worked well, but I think I wish I had a little bit bigger one probably for where I was canoeing. And I've used this one a lot. It's probably my favorite, but I'm going to test all these out, and between now and spring, come up with the right saw axe combo for my next trip in the wilderness. This last trip, I had this bright idea that I was going to take my new friend, my little friend, the Casterman Forest Axe, and my other little friend, the Hoffman mini camp axe, out. But when I threw my pack on my shoulder up at the outfitter site, it kind of almost threw me to the ground. And very sadly, I had to take this one out, because though it's perfect for the work where I was and the kind of wood I need to handle, it was not perfect for me to pack in my portage. So maybe next year, we'll see. I took this little Hoffman mini axe along with the next size down version of this, and they served fine, and they would have been perfect if I was further back in the wilderness than I went this time. But that was my first time canoeing in the wilderness, and I was learning how to do that. A little bigger axe, and probably this saw would have been better. And all my years backpacking, all my other time in the wilderness, I've never carried either an axe or a saw. And if you're in more rugged area, or less visited areas, you really don't probably need these. But if you're trying to do a lot of cooking and you want to shape your fire and control it in certain ways, and you want to if you're in wet weather and you want to get access to dry wood, then you do need a saw and an axe, at least. So, with all that, I'm just going to use these saws and try to formulate my opinion about which of these three saws I just showed I want to take next year. I may not figure it out right away, but this one's sweet. A little heavier, but it's got a longer blade, and it saws nicely. Now this maple is still green, and the wood you cut, and the firewood is only down wood in the wilderness or the forest lands, and it's often laying flat on the ground, and if the easy stuff's been picked, you got lots of limbs underneath. So all those are those are among the factors in deciding what kind of saw you want to take. Right now, I'm just processing this wood, and once I get it sawed, or as I get it sawed, I will use the axes to split it into halves and quarters, and I'll use a smaller axe to turn into some of it into kindling. And for the cleaner grain wood, there's quite a bit of it here. I'll cut some of that to be processed into wood that I can use for feather sticks after it dries. Shorter lengths are ideal for my hot stoves, because once in a while during the winter time I'll set up my hot tent out here as a refuge to come outside and hang out, and this wood is just the right size for the stove I use in there. Okay, that's fun. I like that a lot. One thing I like about this one, as compared to either of the other two closed face configurations, one, you can saw a thicker log if you want to, though I don't really go after bigger logs with these saws. But the other is that with this one, especially in areas where, in the wilderness where lots of people are foraging all the easy wood, the hardwood is laying flat on the ground with limbs under it, and you can get this saw down in there and saw it up, and so you can get up above on the level off the floor, so you can then use an axe to go through and chip the limbs off. And then you can use probably one of those type saws, but this one does fine too. Only saws in one direction, which is a feature. Saws nicely. I use smaller versions of this when I'm working up in trees for pruning, and occasionally for cutting down trees, clearing trees, because saws cleanly with smaller limbs and does a nice job. And you can stick them in your pocket. They're just portable, fold them up, very convenient. So the saw is much lighter, and it's probably sharper, more sharp, got meaner looking teeth than the other saw. The saw's a little slower. Maybe my arm's getting tired. Let's try this. But maybe slower, but it's still just fine. What I probably will do, or should do, get some of my teenagers, my young men and women from my youth group at church, and let them have a saw. and see what they think. This one's after that. Oops. Okay, have fun. The longer throw length seems to be an advantage in this situation right here for speed. Not nice to bump with the knuckles right there. Let's see if I'm capable of learning from that mistake. Just so you can see the teeth here. Probably most folks are familiar with all three of these. But actually the teeth on the, now I'm looking at it, the teeth on the two buck saws are very similar. Very similar. This buck saw comes with different blades. Some are for game processing, for green wood, dry wood, or mixed. I think this is a mixed wood configuration for these two saws. This one, I don't know what you call that, except really sharp and cuts great. So, yeah, we'll go this way. On the Forest Axe, it's chopped up about 85% of all this wood from the tree. It shines especially on the tree and does pretty well on the ground too. With close-in limbing on the trees where it really was great. And then all the chopping you saw up the middle-sized wood, 16 or 18 inches maybe. Nice splitter. That's that transition zone where you go to a bigger axe if you're in a hurry or not. Just want to make it easier, a little bit easier. But this does a superb job. Just had to resharpen it for the first time since I've been using it. Just get the razor edge back. So I've been using this on some of the final splitting, shortening. Some of the other shortening I did, I used with chainsaws. One, for those I mentioned earlier, that were kind of, the limbs were compressed because it fell across the fence behind me, and I had to take the pressure off the safest way I could, easiest way. And also, I've been using some of my chainsaws for other jobs off-site here, and I use these smaller logs to test to make sure they're pulling. I sharpened it properly and getting clean shavings, so that I know the saw is going to work well off-site. Okay, let's see. Give this one a shot again.